wanted to ask you though. You said you're not really that worried about Man United. I know you think Liverpool are going to be back in the title hunt. What do you think is going to be? Why don't you think Man United are going to progress from where they were last season and put themselves near a title race, or just improve generally? Why don't you think there'll be an improvement?
Oh, I think they will improve, but I don't think they're gonna get like improve on the league position necessarily. Like they might improve in terms of maybe style of football, stuff like that, but I don't think they're gonna improve, in terms of results on the pitch, because I think they're gonna face. You've got the 2 games a week thing. I don't think Mount is a smart signing. And look, I've not been biased. I think both Mount and Havertz are gonna fail. I don't like either signings. I think both signings are. I just don't think it's gonna work. And I've seen Mountain that I think against Leon and stuff, and he didn't really have the best game. Look, and we cannot judge based on preseason, so I'm not gonna come up here and make crazy statements like, "Oh my God, he's gonna fail because he played shit against Leon." Like I'm not gonna say that, but I think with him, I just don't think it works. The dynamic of that midfield doesn't work. I think the style of football as well is a question mark. So we're gonna have to wait and see what actually Man United are gonna play with, and against Leon as well, I believe it was. It was against Leon, I swear. Against Leon, I swear as well. We kind of found out there is still the same problem with United, which is also putting the ball in the back of the net. You're kind of maybe too reliant on 1 or 2 players to put the ball in the back of the net. Do I think Højlund is enough to get you over the hump? My honest answer would be no. I don't think he's enough to get you over the hump. And that's not me hating. That's me going into the summer expecting United to sign Harry Kane, which is like levels above. So had you signed Harry Kane, I'd be sat up here going like, fuck, I'm worried about Man United. Forget all this Onana, all this. Forget everyone. If you had signed only Kane, I'm saying, like that's how much I think he makes a difference. If you just signed Kane and none of these guys, I think you would definitely be a problem just based on who Harry Kane is as a football player and how much he'd bring Anthony into the game. He'd bring Rashford into the game. He'd bring Sancho into the game because he's that good. But for me now, when we're talking about Højlund, we're talking about the Mount thing, we don't know how that would work. I think the smartest signing you've made so far is definitely Onana. Onana is could be, and as well for that price tag nowadays, that's a crazy price to get him for. So I think Onana is a fantastic signing. But the rest, I'm kind of like, whoa, like I don't get it. And we will wait and see. I'm not hating. We'll wait and see. But so far, I predict United to finish 4th. I learned my lesson from last year. I'm not putting them outside the top 4, but I think they're going to probably finish 4th.
Yeah, but do you know what I find interesting? Look, you're entitled to your opinions. I think to make the top 4 this year, we have to get more points than we got last season. So therefore, there'll be an improvement. And I believe Man United will improve anywhere between 10 to 15 points. And I think that puts you near a title race, because I don't actually see the winner of the Premier League getting more than 90 to 92 points next season. And my reasoning for that is just maths. It's not even if Liverpool are better, Chelsea are better, United are better. If Newcastle improve, there's just less points to go around, because if we're all winning more games, there's only a certain amount of points, and I just don't see anybody getting more than that. So if we're 10 points better off, we're not that far away from being in a title race. It's just basic maths. I think we will improve, and I think the Onana deal is hugely significant. We are just going to be a different footballing team with him. Mount, listen, I don't disagree with you on Mount. I'm intrigued by that deal to a point where I don't kind of get it, but I trust my manager enough to go, okay, I'm going to give it time. But I think Højlund, I think he's going to surprise people. This kid is serious. And a lot of United fans, £50 million is too much for a player that's kind of just broken through. My prediction with him is, and I'm basing this, by the way, on things I've read about him, and not read about him on Man United websites in the last week. I'm talking about scouting reports from 6 months ago that had no bearing on where he was going to go next. There's a big feeling that this season, if he stays at Atalanta, is going to be a year where he blows up 20 plus goals. Then you're looking at buying him and costing 80, 90, 100 million pounds. I think we need to act now and get the deal done, because I think he's going to be a player that's going to become too expensive. Not too expensive, but far more expensive, and would get laughed at. However, where I agree with you, I think we can push and be on the edge of a title race with the signings we're making. If we then also land a Harry Kane, who we know wants to leave Tottenham, then I believe we've got a chance of winning the Premier League next year.
Yeah, that's a different world. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's a completely different world. Completely different world. Because you've signed a world-class player. I think, listen, Harry Kane gets a lot of stick. I understand why, the whole trophies thing, but he's world-class. Like, we cannot shit on the guy who's been scoring like unbelievable amounts of goals over the last 7, 8 years. So I think that's why I'm saying, like, look, when we first done Straight Facts, my first Straight Facts episode, we were sat here talking about Harry Kane and Kim Min Jae. I would have been worried about Man United had that happened, yes. But now we went from Kane and Kim Min Jae to Mount and Hoyland. So of course I'm gonna step back and go like, okay, wait a minute, this is maybe a little bit of like a step backward in terms of at least ideas or ideals or where you're going with this. This is my thing. And when you say Mount, Mount, we're gonna have to wait and see. I agree with you. We're gonna have to wait and see. I think with Hoyland, I just don't think he's that guy yet. He's still a raw talent. He needs years to develop. So had you signed maybe both Kane and Hoyland, you'd have your starter and the guy ready to replace Kane when Kane goes off. So there's like, you could have done that. But right now, as of today, like 21st July 2023, do I think Hoyland would take United over the edge? I don't think they would. I think Mount could also become a bad signing for the dressing room, because we can see he's a little bit of a drama queen. If you do sign Amrabat, and suddenly Amrabat's playing really well, and suddenly you bench Mason Mount, then he's kind of causing a little bit of a fuss. Like, I didn't come to Man United to sit on the bench. So that could also be a little bit of extra drama. So for me, so far from your signings, I love Onana. I think unbelievable signing. And I have given him so much praise. But the rest, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to have to wait and see. I cannot say anything right now.
No, listen, I understand that. And it's hard to do predictions right now. Someone in the comments said, why are you saying ifs and buts? Well, because at this stage of the season, it's all ifs and buts, because the transfer window hasn't shut and a ball hasn't been kicked as of right now. So every single person saying what's happening next year is based on ifs and buts, because everything I've said about City earlier on in the video, if City go out and sign Kimmich, they bring in Guardiola, they bring in, I'm just going to make some names up here, they sign Rafinha, and they sign a top right back, then suddenly you go, replaced the outgoing players with top quality. So your opinion changes. So that's what's very true. But for me, I believe that Man United will improve to a point where we will be on the edge of that title race. And if we do bring the Kane in, then we're in a chance. In terms of your own predictions, though, I will share with the world what you said last year, where you said regardless of who they sign, Man United won't even be in the top 4 race. Time to adjust to Ten Hag's system, and Thursday night football will have a negative effect on them. A bigger chance of making it through Europa by winning the Europa League than through the league. So what I will say is your opinion last year was very wrong, and I hope it's just as wrong. I hope it's just as wrong.
You made top 4 because Liverpool and Chelsea suck, Terry, and you know this. The idea that I on some of my match reactions in April, I came in and were like, "Oh, do you think Liverpool's gonna make top 4?" That in itself is an embarrassment, because we are so shit this season. So we shouldn't have even been close to you, but somehow we managed being like 4 or 5 points away from you. Listen, that was a bad prediction to an extent, because Europa did get to you a little bit, but Liverpool were crap and Chelsea were crap. So for me, both of these clubs just were out the equation. I mean, here's the thing. You know why that prediction ain't crazy? Because Newcastle made the top 4. So it's not like you've done some unbelievable thing. Newcastle are in the top 4 because there's no competition. There is no competition. We just disappeared.
Yeah, look, you most certainly had a bad season, but I still don't think you can take it away from Manchester United. The difference is, and I understand that logic, that because you didn't get the points, you weren't 4 or 5 points away from us, by the way, it was 8, so we didn't just get that right. It was a bit more than what you've said. However, though, Chelsea and Liverpool being bad didn't help us win games, barring the games where we beat you at home. If we were as bad as you predicted, we would have been in those 6, 7, 8 places with you. It would have been somebody else in the top 4. So, as I said before, it's not about what you didn't do. It's about that we still had to win those football matches. We still had to accumulate those points. And if you'd have said to anybody, we'll get 23 wins, 75 points last season, you'd have also said no chance Man United are doing that. And that's there's no bearing on what anybody else does. And I think there'll be an improvement in us next year. I honestly think we'll get we'll get between 85 and 90 points this season, Manchester United. And a lot of that is going to come down to us scoring more goals. I think Rashford will have another very good season. I think Bruno will score more again this year. I think there'll be an increase from the Antonys of this world. And whoever it is, even if Højlund comes in, this guy will score for us at least 15 league goals, at least in his first year. That's still significant for us with everybody else contributing, because we only scored 58 league goals last year, which isn't enough. And we need to improve by 25 to 30 goals. Now, how you do that is you bring somebody in that's, an extra 15 from him. All you then need is the Antonys and Brunos to improve their outputs, 3, 4, 5 each. And I think that's doable as the team improves. The style of, and Onana as a goalkeeper will be significant in that because of how we build the play up. So look, and having a stronger midfield and a stronger base. I think you look at Mason Mount and the guys coming in, they'll score more goals than the McTominays of this world and their counterparts. We'll also this season, if we bring Amrabat in, we'll be using. He got a weird player in the Man United team who got a lot of disrespect last year in the end from fans was Christian Eriksen. But he was being made to play in a position that's not his best, in a deep midfield role where he didn't quite have the physicality to do it. But if he's now playing understudy to Bruno and or playing in a more attacking role behind the strikers, we know how creative he is. No one's even talking about it. If we've got a base now with the Amrabats and the Casemiros and the Mounts, but you're playing Eriksen in his natural position as a creator, that's going to improve Man United. The goal outputs will improve. No doubt about that in my mind. So, yeah, I'm very excited about the new season for Man United. There's no doubt. And rivals are obviously very fearful that what I'm saying could be true. They're very scared that Man United are going to improve again. We know you all are.
Relax. I'm not scared, man.
Of course you're scared. You look at the way you all were last season with Arsenal was a precursor. If Man United get back to being at their best,
I hate my life, man.
That is hell on earth for everybody because Man United are everybody's rivals. When the new fixtures came out, the first thing you all look for was, when are we playing Man United? We are everybody's.
Who did you first look for? Be honest.
Liverpool, always.
Oh.
Always
Liverpool. I'm honest. To be honest, I looked at Man United first. I admit it.
And everyone looks for Man United. Even Burnley, when we play Man United, that's it, right? Then I look for Liverpool first. Then I look for Arsenal. Then I look for Chelsea. Then I look for City. Typically, that's the order I go in. Outside of that, I don't look at any other ones. I don't really care when any other fixtures are. They're the four in the order that I go in there.
You're being a bit hopeful, and you're giving all the positive scenarios, which I understand. And there is a word in which, hear me out, there's a word in which what you're saying happens. It's not impossible. Could Højlund score 15? Yes. Could Mason Mount be figured out under Ten Hag? Yes. Could Onana be one of the best signings, one of the best keepers in the season? Yes. But also the opposite could happen. Maybe one of them would come really good, the other might not come good. So maybe one works out, one doesn't. So you never know. All I'm saying is, personally, I like one out of the three signings so far. I have every right to have that opinion. What I will say regarding next season is the Champions League is also different. So, involved in Europa League, I know Ten Hag didn't really rotate as much. This is something I use more against Arsenal fans because Arteta rotated heavily in the Europa League. With United, Ten Hag still played some starters, but now actually mostly starters. Now he's gonna go full starters. It's the same exact team that's gonna play. We will see what happens. We will see. But I'm just saying, you're just not that guy yet. You're not that guy yet. Had you signed Kane and Kim Min-jae, you'd have been that guy. You're not that guy now.
I'm not claiming that we're that guy. I've said I think we'll be on the edge of a title race. I'm still predicting right now. If I was to predict, I'd say third. I don't think we'll finish in front of Arsenal. I don't think we'll finish in front of City. I may change my mind in the season if Arsenal and City are not as good as I expect, and United are even better than I expect. But I'm not predicting us to win the league right now. But I do think there'll be a significant improvement in our team. And the Christian Eriksen situation is not being discussed. I'm going to start the trend here. You will see big United channels and you'll see people on the mainstream media in the next few weeks start to talk about it. But if he gets utilized, when we signed him, there was a lot of Man United fans excited about him challenging Bruno's position. Now, Bruno's a captain, which means we know he's going to stay in the first team regularly. However,
Bruno gets over half your fan base as well.
Listen,
don't lie. Half your fan base was crying with that Terrace.
Of course, but that's reality. But the reason they're crying over Bruno becoming the captain is because they're man babies. They're man babies. They don't. No, it's true. They don't have the ability as men to say, "I was wrong about Bruno." Now, subjectively, they don't have to love Bruno. They don't have to enjoy his style of play because there are lots of players that players in Man United history who I love as players, but I'm not a massive fan of how they play for us. Berbatov's an example. Silky and there's something about him annoyed me. I much prefer a Rooney or a Tevez style.
The same group would have wanked over Berbatov nowadays.
No, exactly. By the way, I know, and this is the difference. I know Berbatov was amazing. I loved Berbatov, but he wasn't my favorite type of footballer. Although what's strange about it is I love Teddy Sheringham when I was a kid, but that's the point I'm making. Like, I don't have to love some of these stylistically for me to respect them. But these man babies, they are just crying because their prediction was Donny van der Beek would, under Ten Hag, would see Bruno phased out. But instead, they even last year were talking, there were Bruno haters in spaces saying he's been moved out to the right because the manager don't trust him. They've just lied all year. They just admit your opinion on Bruno is wrong. And what really becomes difficult is they did this whole, but I love the manager. Well, the manager's just made this decision. Just admit you got it wrong and leave the subject. So you're right, they were crying, but I love him as captain. Again, we'll see an even better Bruno
And
next
he didn't
year.
even ask the squad or anything. He made the decision himself, which shows like he's like, nope, I'm actually gonna make him captain. I can't lie, the Bruno thing is just like, it's just like, you know, you've got to just take your L at this point. Like, khalas, just move it, keep it stepping, man. It's just. I think this whole thing started because of the whole Bruno Pogba conversations, and they haven't let go ever since. That's just
no, but this is that's why I call them man babies, because they man babies United. They just I love it's like the Rashford stuff. Some of them are still holding on to not liking Rashford because their prediction was Martial would leave him behind, and instead of going, do you know what? You're right. Again, stylistically, they'll always prefer Martial to Rashford, and they're entitled to think that. But objectively, who's delivered more for the club? Who is like? Listen, I said it the other day. In my opinion, Cavadonna could maybe be the only guy, but there isn't a left-sided inside forward in the world who Man United could sign who's better than Marcus Rashford. We can't sign Vinicius Jr. We can't sign Kylian Mbappe. And I don't believe there's anyone who plays on that left-hand side who we could sign.
Even Rodrigo, you probably can't sign. That's the thing from Madrid. That's another one.
Yeah, you can't get him. You know, Arsenal fans might say
Martin. This is actually
better.
something I went through. Loki, you look at that left wing place, and there isn't much. There really isn't much because there's a difference between attainable and actual. The only guy I'd maybe mention alongside that is Leao. But other than that, there's really no one.
Yeah, I mean, Rafael Leao is brilliant, but I think Marcus Rashford overall is better. Maybe not a dribbling. Leao might have better skills, but overall, but I saw that right now as well, by the way. I think Rafael Leao in the next 2 to 3 years could get to that level and go beyond him. There's no doubt about it. But for me, that's why I always say to these guys, this is how I know you're wrong about Rashford. When it comes to attainability, like you've said, who could we realistically sign who improves us beyond Marcus Rashford on that left-hand side? Practically impossible. Practically impossible. It's like you.
Or they cost 100 million.
Yeah, but even then, would they want to come to Man United? Like Mbappe and Vinny Jr. are better, but they're not gettable. So if they're not gettable, you know, some people, Jack Grealish is better. Yeah, well, you're going to sell him to us. If he's not gettable, it's a pointless conversation because we're not saying who's the best. He's the best in the world. But if we can't sign better than him, he's the best you can get. Therefore, you can't moan that he's in your team. Like, it don't even make sense. It's just a pointless, brain-dead argument. And most of the Man United fans that hate on these two are just butthurt that their footballing opinion on this subject, by the way, because they're right about other things, on this subject, they got wrong. And instead of being men and grown-ups and saying, do you know what? I was wrong about that. And then leaving the subject, they're still doing spaces now on we should drop Bruno. He's just been made captain. It's a pointless conversation.